Today we'll be taking a look at the newly updated Flexispot E6 Max standing desk. And honestly, after spending almost a year with my other E6 Max in my setup, I think this still might be one of the best value standing desks on the market right now. This new version starts at around $480 for the Acacia wood top, but you can regularly find it discounted on Amazon during their promotional periods. It's sitting right in that kind of sweet spot between the budget stuff that'll frustrate you and the premium desk that will make your wallet cry. Now, I've been using this updated version for about 2 weeks, but like I said before, I have an older E6 Max that's been in my setup for about a year now, and it's still holding up really well. So I feel like I have a pretty good sense on how it performs, both in the short and long term. If you're someone who's been thinking about making the jump to a standing desk, but don't want to break the bank, then the E6 Max might be exactly what you're looking for. In this video, we'll go over everything you need to know about this desk. We'll talk about the build quality, stability, real world performance, and whether it's actually worth your money. But before we dive in, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Flexispot. That said, they are only paying me for my production time and not my opinion. Everything I say is based on actually using this desk in my own setup. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the review, starting with the design. So when it comes to the design, the E6 Max has a clean, modern look that I feel really works well in both home offices and more professional work environments. It's not trying to be too flashy or anything. It just looks like a well-designed, minimal piece of furniture, which is honestly what I prefer in a desk. Now, the big update with this version of the E6 Max is the new desktop. It now features a solid Acacia wood top, and it looks really nice in my opinion. It has a natural wood grain finish with a beveled front edge that gives it more of a premium feel. That being said, if you're kind of on a tighter budget, they still offer the bamboo and laminate options, which also look good and will save you a little bit of money. My other E6 Max uses a bamboo top, which still looks really good and has held up really well over the past year. For this review, I have the black frame paired with the Acacia walnut top, and I think this combination looks great. But you can also go with a white frame if that fits your setup better. My other E6 Max uses a white frame with a bamboo top, and it also looks really clean in my opinion. The frame itself uses a 3-stage lift system with T-style legs, meaning the vertical column sits centered in the base rather than offset towards the back. Now this kind of helps a bit with stability, but we'll get more into that in the performance section. One thing worth noting is that cable management isn't built in. Flexispot does sell cable trays and accessories as add-ons, which is a minor drawback at this price point in my opinion. You do get some Velcro strips and cable ties included, but if you want a real solution, then you'll probably want to budget a bit extra for a cable tray that you can mount to the desk. When it comes to build quality, the E6 Max feels really solid right out of the box. The frame is heavy-duty steel, so there's no flex or give anywhere. From first impressions, it honestly feels like it's on par with standing desks that cost significantly more. I have an uplift desk in my main setup that costs twice as much, and honestly, I can't really tell the difference when it comes to the frame and legs. But the real standout with the E6 Max here is the new Acacia solid wood desktop. This is a meaningful upgrade over the laminate tops that you'll typically see in this price range. Acacia wood is eco-friendly, renewable, odor-free, and free from any harmful chemicals, which is a nice bonus. The desktop itself is about 1 inch thick, so it's not going to feel quite as substantial as those kind of 2-inch solid wood tops that you'll get on some of the higher end brands. But those desks are usually more than double the price of this one, so that's a pretty reasonable trade-off in my opinion. It still feels really solid, and I had no issues mounting monitor arms, mic arms, lighting, or cable management trays to the desktop. It holds everything securely without any flex under load. One nice upgrade with the Acacia wood desktop is the beveled front edge. This makes it significantly more comfortable to rest your forearms on it when you're typing because it prevents any sharp edges from digging in. Overall, it's a really nice desktop in my opinion. That being said, if you prefer to use your own desktop, you can also just buy the legs and frame separately and mount whatever tabletop that you want. A lot of people actually like to pair this with the IKEA Carlby countertop, which goes up to 98 inches long, so if you really need that extra desk space, that could be a viable option. Now, the size options range from 48 to 78 inches in length and 24 to 30 inches in depth. For this version of the E6 Max, I currently have the 48 by 24 inch configuration, which is the smallest one available. For me, I have this desk on casters, so the smaller size makes it more practical to move around. That said, I also have a 60 by 30 inch setup on my other E6 Max, and that extra depth is really nice. The 30 inch depth lets you kind of push your monitors a bit farther back, so you have more breathing room in front of you. In my opinion, I think the 60 inch by 30 inch is the perfect sweet spot for kind of a permanent setup if your space allows for it. So now let's get into the actual performance of the desk, and the most important thing here to consider is the height adjustment. The E6 Max uses a dual motor system with a 3-stage lift mechanism, which gives it a much wider height range than most desks in this category. We're talking 24.4 inches at the low end, all the way up to 50 inches at the high end, which should comfortably accommodate people from 5 feet tall all the way up to 6'6". Now for my experience, that low 24.4 inches is actually really useful. Standard desk height is typically around 29 to 30 inches, and for a lot of people, that's just too high to get proper ergonomics while sitting. I personally like to set it at around 27.5 to 28 inches. This kind of makes it so that my elbows are level with the desk and my feet are planted flat on the floor. So me being on the shorter end at 5'6", the E6 Max handles that no problem. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're using casters, they'll actually add a little bit of height, so having that low minimum gives you a little bit more flexibility here. The casters also just make the desk really convenient convenient if you ever need to move your desk setup or access the back for cable management. Now at the top end, 50 inches is more than enough for most people. I never need to go all the way up, but the extra height does come in handy if you're pairing this with a walking pad. Now I've been trying to hit 10,000 steps every single day, so I'll pair this desk with my Flexispot treadmill while I work. I'll have a link to that in the description if you're interested. But when you're standing on a walking pad, it's going to add a little bit of extra height, so you'll kind of need to raise the desk a bit higher than you would normally need to. When it comes to the adjustment speed, it's about 1.5 inches per second, which feels just right. It's fast enough so you're not just kind of waiting around, but controlled enough so that it's not jarring or jerking around as you move it up and down. It does slow down a little bit when it's under heavier loads, but your setup realistically is not going to come anywhere near that 330-pound weight capacity. The motors also run at under 50 decibels, which is reasonably quiet. You'll definitely hear them, but they're not going to disrupt any video calls or bother anyone else in the room. One nice thing about this desk is that it has a built-in anti-collision sensor, which automatically stops and reverses if the desk detects any resistance while moving. This is really useful if you have drawer units or other furniture underneath. Now when it comes to the control pad, it's really clean and simple to use. You get 4 programmable memory presets, plus manual up and down controls. Setting your preferred sitting and standing heights takes about 10 seconds to program, and switching between them is completely smooth. Plus, if you share this desk with someone else or want different positions for specific tasks, then you've got some extra presets to program those in as well. When it comes to the weight capacity, Flexispot rates this desk at 330 pounds, which should be more than enough for even the most loaded out multi-monitor PC setups. I've had a full PC, dual monitors, laptops, speakers, and a bunch of peripherals here with no issues at all. It can easily handle my weight if I'm sitting on it and raise and lower with no problem. Now let's talk about wobble, because this is probably one of the most important things to consider with any standing desk. Now when it's at sitting height, you really don't need to worry about it with most desks, but a lot of the budget standing desks will have real front to back wobble when you raise them up to a standing height. The E6 Max is pretty solid here. I think it got a little bit better with this new Acacia wood desktop just because it's a denser material. For a standard 2-leg standing desk, I'd say the wobble is pretty minimal. Part of that comes down to the T-style leg design. Now because the vertical column is centered in the base, you get a little bit better balance and weight distribution compared to C-style legs where the column is offset towards the rear. That said, it's still not going to be as stable as some of the higher end standing desks that either use 4 legs or a crossbar underneath. You definitely will have some wobble when the desk is raised up, especially when there's nothing on the desk, but that's pretty hard to avoid even on much more expensive desks. My main setup has a standing desk that costs more than twice as much as this one, and it still has wobble when it's raised up. However, once you put actual weight on it, like your monitors and PC, it becomes noticeably more stable. So in everyday use, the wobble really hasn't been an issue for me, and I'm someone who's pretty sensitive to wobble when it comes to standing desks. I've had cheap budget standing desks in the past where it was basically unusable for me because my monitors would shake whenever I was typing. And for me, the E6 Max has not been a problem in that department at all. So now let's talk about value. Starting at $480 for the Acacia wood version and often lower with Amazon promo codes, the E6 Max offers really strong value. You're getting the stability and build quality of desks that typically cost a lot more, and the Acacia wood top is a really nice upgrade. Flexispot backs this desk with a 10-year warranty on the frame and motors and 2 years on the control pad and electronics. That's solid coverage and shows that they really kind of stand behind their product. You also get a 30-day return window, which gives you a real chance to test it in your actual setup before committing. Now when I stack this up against desks like Uplift, the E6 Max holds its own on the stability and build quality at a much more accessible price point. I think in terms of performance, they're pretty on par. Now, like I said before, some of those higher end brands will offer some more premium, thicker solid wood tops, but it'll really cost you. I think the new E6 Max with the Acacia wood top is a really nice middle ground in terms of price versus performance. It gives you a relatively nice solid wood top while still keeping the budget price point. Overall, I've been really happy with the updated E6 Max. The new Acacia wood top is a genuine upgrade over the previous version, and it makes it a lot more premium than the price suggests. And when it comes to the core job of a standing desk, smooth, quiet adjustment, and solid stability, it really delivers. So if you're interested in checking out the E6 Max, I'll have affiliate links down in the description. And if you have any questions about this desk, feel free to leave me a comment down below. So with all that said, if you found this review helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.